Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for yielding. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. Could any of you point to me the law, the federal law, the United States federal law, that empowers you to regulate non-SIFI insurance companies? Could you cite that law to me?
So the Federal Reserve, under the Dodd-Frank Act, the Bank Holding Company Act, and the Homeowners Loan Act, has authority, in addition to regulating the non-bank SIFIs that have been designated by FSOC that engage in insurance.
SIFIs. There are 3 insurance companies that are SIFIs.
Correct.
And those are the 3 you can regulate.
Yes, but in addition to the SIFIs, we are also empowered to regulate, required by law to regulate any firm that owns a depository institution, a bank or a thrift, and several
Can
insurance.
you point to me the law that empowers any United States federal agency to at the federal level to regulate a non-SIFI, non-bank owning insurance company? I didn't think so, because there isn't one. And yet you are negotiating as if there is. Now, the thing that's amazing to me is that I would argue there's a lot of work to do here. Mr. McGrath, you've been before us many times. I hope you count me as one of your defenders and supporters. I think FIO's work is critically important. And I will clearly state that I have been a supporter of an optional federal charter. I know that gets some people all worked up, and I will hear phone calls tomorrow, but I always emphasize the word optional, but that's a different issue, which would then allow companies to choose to be regulated at the federal level. Now, we don't have that yet. Why are you negotiating for federal standards for companies you cannot enforce regulations on?
Congressman, the work at the IAIS is the development of standards. It's independent of the regulatory structure in any one country. So in this work, as we represent the United States and work closely with our state colleagues, you'll remember I was the insurance director for a long time in Illinois, worked with our Federal Reserve colleagues. Our objective is to influence the consensus internationally so that it reflects and integrates the best interests of the United States. Then as those standards are developed, they're then implemented at the state level, or in some cases at the federal level. So you're hoping that the state levels will adopt your work.
So this is, at the moment, an academic endeavor, which is not necessarily unworthwhile, but in the final analysis, after all the work that you do with the IAIS, it will apply to 3 insurance companies. Is that a fair conclusion? And I understand you hope that these states will do it, and I'm happy to work with anyone who wants to talk about an optional federal charter, but at the moment, it would apply to 3 insurance companies.
The international standards have been around since 1994, and the states have implemented those international standards in a way that reflects the state approach.
So you're suggesting that the IAIS is something along the line of a model law, trying to do best practices to help our state friends see the light?
I think the IIS mission is to promote global financial stability and promote best practices and supervision.
Well, I respect
globally.
that, but I mean, first of all, they have no record of doing so, because I don't think they've done such a great job. Now, don't get me wrong, I think some of our state regulators haven't done such a great job. I kind of remember a little problem with AIG, but that's a different issue. What I do think is that if we're going to have federal regulations, which I don't oppose, that we need to come to Congress and say we want to have federal regulations on insurance companies. We'll have that debate. We'll see if you have the support, and if you do, we do it. But if you don't, I kind of think there's a lot of other things that you should be doing, Mr. McGrath, and certainly a lot of things the Fed should be doing that matter. Now, I have no problem going to conferences and discussing a United States perspective on various items, but I got to tell you, everything I've read from the IAAS certainly looks like they expect us to just adopt it the day after it's done. And I understand you don't want to say that, but I want to say it real clearly to those friends of the IAAS. We love you. We respect you. We want to work with you, but you're not telling us what to do. In the final analysis, it'll be the United States that makes the decision what happens to United States companies, not other people. And if we want to talk about it in the long run, great idea. But I think it's got to be said, and I got to tell you, from the testimony, if you read the testimony, there's a few things that say that, but most of the testimony presumes that it's going to be adopted, and I just think it's very important to put on the record that, again, good exercise, no problem with the discussions, have a real problem with pretending or presuming or letting it go unspoken that in the final analysis this could all be for naught. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.